For our number 10 spot, we have supporting criminals. For some background, the two met on the set of That 70s Show when Kutcher was 20 and Mila was just 15. One of their fellow co-stars, Dannii Masterson, was just recently sentenced to 30 years of jail time. This is due to the horrifying acts he has committed back in 2001 to 2003, during the height of his fame. We can't go into detail since it is some graphic information, so feel free to read more about it online if you want more detail. However, Mila and Ashton are facing huge backlash, and in my opinion, for a very reasonable and valid reason. They have written letters of support towards Masterson, which was devastating for the survivors in the situation. These letters date back to July 27th of this year, with Kutcher describing Masterson as someone who treated others with quote-unquote decency, equality, and generosity, and even called him an exceptional older brother figure. So many people were mad, and rightfully so. Ashton even said in the letter how he does not believe Masterson is not going to cause ongoing harm to the society, which is just wow. Mila and Ashton then came forward with an apology due to the huge backlash they began to face, and they apologized for any harm they have caused the victims due to the letters. Ashton then said those letters quote-unquote were intended for the judge to read and not to undermine the testimony of the victims or re-traumatize them in any way. We would never want to do that, and we're sorry if that has taken place. What do you guys think about Mila and Ashton's statements? I would love to hear your opinions on the situation. And for number 9, we have Kutcher talking about young girls, and not in a friendly way, but in a kind of creepy and gross way. Actually, one of Dannii Masterson's accusers and former girlfriends, Chrissy Cornell Bixler, resurfaced one of the videos, which was taken in 2003 when Kutcher was 25, and these disturbing clips show Ashton talking about the very young Hilary Duff. He says she is one of those girls we're all waiting to turn 18, and I'm not sure who we are, Ashton, but yikes. He followed that up by saying along with the Olsen twins. This disturbing comment raises huge red flags as these girls were so young, and for a grown man to say these things about them is disturbing. Unfortunately, videos such as this one has resurfaced surrounding other celebrities as well, such as MGK, also known as Machine Gun Kelly, and the video showed the then 23-year-old MGK discussing how he needed to wait for Kendall Jenner to turn 18. What is with those creepy comments? It is quite disturbing what Hollywood allows you to get away with, because that is so wrong in so many different ways. For number 8, we have a creepy dare. In a 2002 clip where Kunis and Kutcher discussed the age gap between the characters the two played in That 70s Show, Mila played Jackie and Ashton played the role of Michael. These two characters had an on-screen romance that slowly caused the two to fall in love in real life as well, years later. Well, during an interview with Rosie O'Donnell, Kutcher revealed a disgusting dare Dannii himself told Ashton to do. Masterson told Kutcher he would give him $10 to kiss the much younger Mila Kunis. Mila actually interrupted the boys during their conversation to say Masterson actually bet her $20 Kutcher wouldn't do it. Rosie O'Donnell followed up by stating, "Then the cops showed up and you got arrested?" Kutcher then responded to O'Donnell with, "They should've, but they didn't." Keep in mind, Ashton was 20 and Dannii was 22, which means they definitely knew what they were doing, and it was definitely wrong. Yeah, it can be looked upon as a stupid dare, but come on, this is wrong on so many levels. I mean, on-screen kisses for your job are one thing, but French kiss for a dare? This situation definitely does not look good for Kutcher, and especially Masterson, as the intentions behind this dare don't seem to be innocent. Kunis during the interview addressed her emotions at the time by saying she never kissed a boy at the time, and although she found Kutcher attractive, she was still so young and quote-unquote extremely scared for my life. In our 7th spot, we have Kutcher's unspoken secrets. Chrissy Bixler, who we talked about earlier, has recently come out on Instagram with a story that was shocking. In case you forgot, Bixler was one of the survivors of Masterson, and she was a former girlfriend of his. Her Instagram story went as a response after Kutcher and Kunis had the letter that was shared and made it public. She goes on by stating how she knows all the secrets Masterson kept for him, and stating she knows things that would end him. Apparently, she was there during Masterson and Kutcher's February 21st, 2001 phone call, and she says she heard the plan and even compared Kutcher and stated how he is equally as sick as Masterson. What was heard by Bixler was unclear, but that date is very important as we will further discuss this later on. Bixler then addresses Mila directly and states she is praying for Mila to recognize and process what has happened on set. She then encourages others to watch Mila's old interviews, as her old interviews are very telling, and want to raise awareness to these videos before they are wiped. She then further addressed what happened in Toronto, and although Bixler did not directly state what happened, she did say she remembers what happened in Toronto and after, following with this direct statement. Question: if that is what you view from a big brother figure, then I feel very sad for you, and I hope you consider getting into therapy, and wow, Wow, whatever Bixler is talking about surely says a lot about the men on this show, especially since they were all more than 5 years older than Kunis. I'm glad Bixler is speaking out, and I'm sure it isn't easy talking about situations where the public has big opinions. In our number 6 spot, we have Mila lying about her age. There has been rumors circulating for quite some time now on whether Mila Kunis really did lie about her age when talking to producers of that 70s show. Well, Mila Kunis has come on record after 24 long years that she did in fact lie in order to secure her role as Jackie. She admitted to an interview with Vanity Fair that it was indeed true, as she told producers she was almost 18 in order for them to let her audition. And by almost, she meant maybe 1, 2, 3, nope, 4 more years to go, which would have made her 14 years old when the show started filming. I'm surprised she was actually able to get away with this, but hey, she did land the role, which is quite impressive, especially knowing how young she was when she auditioned. However, we all know her being as young as she was has caused major red flags when it comes to the cast, but at the end of the day, she was still a child and could not understand the issues potentially surrounding this. For our number 5 spot, we have Bixler accusing Ashton for not revealing as much as he knows about the 2001 death of Ashley Ellern. Before we discuss this one, these are all accusations and speculation, so take this with a grain of salt. But back in 2001, Ashton was supposed to pick up Ashley for a date. However, she never answered the door when he arrived, and Ashton then left assuming she wasn't home, and he later played a part in the sentencing as he testified back in court in 2019. Bixler claimed that Kutcher knew more about the crime than he let on, and Kutcher always said he remembered seeing what he thought was red wine stains on the rug, which he later found out was not wine. The police ended up questioning him, and he was fearful as he remembered his handprints and DNA were all over the door, and he ensured he let police know in advance. After this, he was shortly ruled out as a suspect. Well, according to Bixler, do you remember how we mentioned the February 21st date? Well, that was the day Ashton was supposed to go on a date with Ashley when he ended up leaving because she didn't answer the door. Well, Bixler was dating Masterson at the time and claimed that same day Ashton had actually called Masterson, and the entire conversation was on speaker, which allowed Bixler to hear all the details. Although she has not directly talked about what happened, she implied he is hiding more than he has admitted to. In fact, her direct quote is as stated, "Did you forget I was there? You were on speakerphone that night you called Dannii on February 21st, 2001. I heard everything. I heard the plan." Bixler did not further discuss what plan she is talking about. However, Ashton has always claimed he did not know what happened to Ashley until the next day. So what happened on this phone call? Ashton has not yet commented on the situation, and I can't imagine how the family of Ashley are feeling as all of this are resurfacing, and I hope they're able to find closure. In our number 4 spot, we have another video resurfacing where Ashton is outright creepy towards Mila. For a video Mila was promoting for that 70s show, the video seemed normal at first as Mila was just talking to the camera, but once she moves over, she reveals Ashton is right behind her. Ashton reveals in the video the only reason why he is even doing this video promotion in the first place is because Josh told him Mila would sit on his lap if he did, and the two began laughing. Kutcher even follows by saying, "And it feels good." This definitely does not help the situation as he was an adult during this time. Kutcher and Masterson has always been close friends, and with Masterson being the oldest one on set, they reportedly looked up to him as a role model and big brother. Videos of Masterson were also resurfaced that were quite similar to the ones we just talked about with Ashton. The two men clearly did not show Mila any respect or give her any boundaries, and the fact she was very young at the time, this poor girl probably did not even realize how bad the situation really was. In the 3rd spot, we have Mila's old interviews discussing how she has no idea what the writers are thinking. The reason why this is such a warning sign is because the interviewer was questioning Mila, who was 19 during this taping, about her character as Jackie. And Jackie was seen as a promiscuous character, and Mila even says that she is the only person who has kissed every single one of their co-stars except for Topher. She even states how it is upsetting for her parents as well. The interviewer even says to Mila how all of this is so wrong, which Mila agrees with him. He further asked her what the writers were thinking, and she even says she's unsure, but it's her job to do what the script said. The interviewer said he was worried for her, which is upsetting that Mila had to go through this all so young. These old interviews are very telling as she does seem to be aware of how all of this is not okay. I really hope Mila is able to find peace when it comes to her early years on the show, as it seems to have red flags all over it. Although Mila should have not supported Masterson, it is clear in the past she has been a victim as well. In our number 2 spot, we have Ashton being contradictory of his own beliefs. It seems people are also angry at Ashton because he has always shown a passion towards ending trafficking trafficking, as he is a co-founder of Thorn alongside Demi Moore. Thorn was established in 2012 and aims to create and develop technology to assist with aiding those who are being trafficked. The company focuses on 3 principles, which are to accelerate with victim identification, equipping, and empowering. It seems the message of empowerment is unfortunately backfiring at Kutcher because his statements seem to be extremely damaging, not only towards the direct survivors in Masterson's case, but to all the people who have been through similar situations. Thorn has really made a positive impact, and it is upsetting for Ashton's statements towards Masterson to feel like he's almost taking a huge step backwards. Hopefully he is able to recognize this and remembers he is fighting for those who are survivors and not going against them. In our number 1 spot, we have their failed apology. As we discussed earlier, the couple faced major backlash after their letters of support to their former co-star Masterson was made public. The two took to Instagram and shared an apology video. However, I don't think the video went as planned, and eventually they did have to turn off their comment section. Many people are calling them out by calling them insincere and claiming they're only coming forward with this apology because they were caught. Some sources say that the two did not know these letters were gonna be made public. People tore their video apart as they claimed there was no substance or accountability taken. It was clear Bixler, who was one of the survivors of Masterson himself, was angered, and rightfully so. Many celebrities also took their opinions, including Amy Schumer, Christina Ricci, and Grace Tame. It is clear the majority are not siding with Kutcher or Kunis on this one, as their apology does not seem to aid their case at all.
Coming in at number 10, the first celebrity will be Martin Short. Now, Martin Short, who was interviewed alongside whoever, isn't a recent call out. In fact, not many celebrities have negative things to say about Fallon currently amidst all the controversy. Rather, when they have had things to say to the man, they all tend to do it in the moment, as will be evident by many of the circumstances on this list. However, following the reports that Fallon allegedly created an ugly environment behind the scenes on The Tonight Show, a resurfaced clip of Martin Short calling him out for being fake started making the rounds on Twitter. And I gotta say, Martin went in, telling Jimmy, "This is the great show on television because there is no host in late night that pretends to care the way that you do." While Jimmy awkwardly laughs and thanks him, Martin continues to say, "I mean, no one captures phoniness the way you do. It's a gift." Steve Martin decided to chip in, since he was the other guy at the interview, adding, "Yeah, when I'm at home watching the show, which is rare, I think for somebody who does a certain substance, your teeth look great." And because the two hadn't dug Jimmy enough, Short adds in the finishing touch of, "You prove that tall, handsome white men can make it in show business." You may be wondering, did Fallon prompt this roast in any way? Actually, no. The interview with the two men only makes it 45 seconds in before they start going off on him, which is why Jimmy kinda awkwardly sits there and takes it. Number 9 will be Tina Fey. Kind of. Again, she's not really calling him out, but similar to the Martin clip, an excerpt of her 2011 memoir Bossy Pants is going viral thanks to New Yorker editor Aaron Overby, who tweeted it alongside a caption that Fey had Fallon dead to rights. In what's described as one in a series of love letters to her best friend Amy Poehler in the book, Tina describes a situation for early in Amy's career on SNL, which started in early September of 2001. Amy and a team of writers were doing a read-through of an upcoming bit, shooting off ideas, and Amy, as Tina describes, was doing some nonsense with Seth Meyers and did something vulgar as a joke that was dirty, loud, and unladylike. Fallon, who as Faye mentioned was the star of the show at the time, took offense to it. Apparently trying to lighten up how he delivered his criticism, he decided to deliver it in a faux squeamish voice saying, "Stop that, it's not cute, I don't like it," some shit like that. Amy apparently picked up on the fact he was actually bothered under his attempt to be funny about the complaint, and Tina described that she stopped, went black in the eyes for a second, and responded, "I don't care if you like it." Fallon was then startled while Poehler went right back to enjoying a ridiculous bit. However, while this circulates, we should remember what isn't included in the viral tweet, that Tina openly stated Jimmy and Amy are very good friends and there was never any real beef between them. Here's a classic, however. Number 8 is Dakota Johnson. Hilarious. While Dakota Johnson has most notably appeared in 50 Shades of Grey and that's about it, she is famous for firing back without fear at reality TV hosts and interviewers alike. She famously cut off Ellen, which pretty much broke the internet, but she also had an iconic interaction with Jimmy Fallon before that, when he kept interrupting her on The Tonight Show. Fallon has a bad habit of asking celebrities for stories, but then asking too many interruptive or distracting questions as they tell them, and sometimes the celebrity doesn't even get to finish the tale before Jimmy's questions push them into another. Dakota was trying to talk about how she's being sprayed by a skunk for the 6th time, which is weird as hell. I want to know what she's doing to skunks to make them hate her. But then Jimmy interrupts her for a final time, and in turn she interrupted him by asking, "Aren't you supposed to let people talk talk on this show? Jimmy took a second to laugh and look kind of incredulous and a tad annoyed, responding, "If they know what they're talking about, yes! What the hell are you talking about?" While both he and Dakota laughed. Both parties brushed off the experience pretty well, despite how much trolling online it received, becoming a feature of memes and tweets globally. Number 7 is Blake Shelton, or as I call him, Gwen Stefani's husband. All I know about him is he makes country music, and I guess that's something Jimmy Fallon and I have in common because it seems when it comes time to interview Shelton, Fallon kind of falls flat on how to approach him or what to ask. When Blake Shelton appeared on the show in 2017, he was not the most receptive to Fallon's humor. Jimmy Fallon jokingly made fun of Blake Shelton's southern accent and tossed in a few southern stereotype jabs in the mix. Nothing harsh or biased per se, but it definitely rubbed the country singer the wrong way. Instead of laughing along with the humor, Shelton was visibly annoyed. Kind of funny that the dude whose whole brand in music is built upon being southern can't take a good ribbon about it. In fact, Shelton didn't even laugh at Jimmy Fallon's jokes much. Finally, Jimmy Fallon started interviewing Blake Shelton properly, and Shelton replied in a dry, monotone voice, "Thank God," causing an awkward moment where even the live audience didn't know if they should laugh or acknowledge the quip. Their senses of humor just don't mesh. Number 6 is Rami Malek. So, the childhood crush of every nerdy, history-obsessed kid that watched Night at the Museum like a religion. Now, he's all grown up and dominating the screens in complicated dramas such as Mr. Robot or unreal biopics such as Bohemian Rhapsody. But let's not forget another time Rami dominated our screens. Rather, the phone ones. Tweets and memes hit the internet hard after a hilarious and awkward interaction occurred during the late night show interview between Fallon and Malek. Jimmy was expressing his adoration for the recent Rhapsody biopic and elatedly rambled to Rami that if I had your email or your phone number, I would have called you like a gazillion times, like, dude, you were unbelievable. Rami is kind of awkwardly leaned back in his chair and does like the darting gaze, sort of like awkwardly looking at Fallon, then the audience, then back at Fallon, and uncomfortably mentions, "You have my email and phone number." There's an uncomfortable beat in which Fallon, with his usual water off a duck's back routine, responds with, "That's true, I just decided not to call you, ha 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 ha," before awkwardly moving on. Number 5 is Shawn Mendes. The sassy Canadian singer was 18 when he first pulled what would sort of become like a short-term stunt of his whenever he was around Jimmy Fallon, which is telling the TV host that he's old. And not in any particular funny haha way, just kind of in an awkward fall flat kind of way. It started in 2016 when Mendes was gearing up to do a performance on the show. Jimmy messes up and gives him a late cue to start singing, leading to Mendes telling Jimmy his timing is all wrong and this was all on you, while the two awkwardly laugh off the fail. As Jimmy's trying to continue, however, Mendes tosses in and "I told you I'm just not as old as you," eliciting laughs, woes, and ohs from the audience. Fallon himself laughs at the joke, especially when the band follows it with a or rim shot, and Jimmy manages to work with that first insult, replying, "Son, don't talk back to your father like that, don't talk back to your dad like that, go to your room right now." Mendes, however, doesn't take the cue to kind of back off and keep doing their actual bit that's planned, and awkwardly keeps rolling with his roast of the host. "It doesn't mean you don't look old, you're fine, you just are old, I'm just very young." It seemed to be the last of it, but only a few minutes later, when Fallon comments, "That is a hit song right there," in regards to Mendes singing of a tweet, he abruptly tells Fallon, again, no context, "You sound like my grandfather," which goes ignored and uncomfortable by the audience and Fallon. Number 4, John Oliver. Host versus host. There's never gonna be a winner. Oh, well, maybe there is, but who's to say? While interviewing John Oliver on the late night show, Fallon and he have one of their many awkward confrontations, wherein Fallon had been waxing poetic to Oliver, saying, "You know, last week tonight," which I still think is the best title of any show ever. Oliver, without missing a beat, interrupts and says, "The best title? Wow, that sounds like damning me with fake praise, Jimmy. I really love the title." It goes downhill once that's finished. I love how John Oliver's voice is so distinct, even as someone who doesn't watch him, I can literally hear him saying those words in my brain. It's hilarious, however, to see Jimmy pressured to tell the truth when he always plays it safe. This is one of many instances where Oliver has put Jimmy in this situation, such as the video call interview during COVID with Jimmy, wherein he kept asking the Alexa inappropriate questions for a public video, forcing Fallon to have to disable it, and essentially not give Amazon a free commercial of him and the other late night host. Number 3 is Roger Waters. For those who don't know but love to wear the t-shirts, Roger Waters is one of the Pink Floyd members, of whom Jimmy Fallon is a massive fan. Naturally, it made for an exciting opportunity to interview Roberts. However, Jimmy inevitably steered the topic towards former Syd Barrett, who left the band struggling with schizophrenia and mental wellness. This immediately triggered an emotional reaction from Waters, Waters, who took on a very serious tone when discussing Sid that implied no nonsense was to be made. However, Jimmy doesn't seem to pick up on the vibe, and he goes on to bring up a story where Barrett was in an episode and interrupted a Pink Floyd recording. Fallon chose to describe Sid insensitively, saying a bald man with a toothbrush in his mouth. Waters clears up that story, making sure to tell Fallon that his friend being consumed by addiction and mental illness wasn't a funny story, and that the entire situation was very sad. Number 2 is Jerry Seinfeld. I chose to put Seinfeld in here due to his vocal defense of Jimmy Fallon in the last few days, but also his acknowledgement that he defended others from him. So, for those who haven't read it yet, in the interviews recently given by current and former staffers of Jimmy Fallon, one recalled a story in which Seinfeld, the interviewee of the night, had seen Fallon being hard on one of his workers, scolding them for flubbing a simple task while they filmed. The anonymous whistleblowers claimed Seinfeld right then and there ordered Fallon to apologize to the worker, and that Fallon supposedly complied. Go Jerry Seinfeld, we love to see it. The anonymous former employee said that in interview, it was very awkward and Jerry was like, you should apologize to him, almost trying to make it a joke. It was one of the strangest moments ever and so many people were there, so it's kind of hard to forget. Rolling Stone claims Seinfeld's reps did not respond to multiple requests to comment before publishing the article, but once the story was published, Seinfeld sent them the following statement. This is so stupid. I remember this moment quite well. I teased Jimmy about a flub and we all had a fun laugh about how rarely Jimmy is thrown off. It was not uncomfortable at all. Jimmy and I still occasionally recall it and laugh. Idiotic twisting of events. A source with knowledge of The Tonight Show also told the Post on Thursday that the Rolling Stones version of the Seinfeld story is inaccurate, which is now starting to cast some light on the debatable reality of these accusations. Number 1 is Joaquin Phoenix. Joaquin is famous for a multitude of reasons, from his late brother River Phoenix to his chaotic performances in films such as Her and Joker. But Joaquin also pulled a move on the late night show that made people with complicated names everywhere glow a little inside. When Jimmy Fallon tried to give Joaquin Phoenix a nickname, he wasn't having it. Fallon, with very little context, tells Joaquin, I call you Wa. Then Joaquin was like, why? Fallon laughs and says, well, your name's Joaquin, and I feel like that's too long for me. Joaquin, looking extremely unimpressed, replied without hesitation that you can handle it. I feel like you can handle it. You do a monologue every night. Dude, let me say thank you, Joaquin, on behalf of myself and everyone out there with a unique or foreign name. It gets very old and very offensive when people don't try to pronounce it, would rather just assign you a nickname for their own comfort and convenience. People often describe the entirety of this interview, as well as the memory game instilled at the beginning, as vague evidence towards Joaquin disliking Fallon as a whole, especially after this point in the interview where he remains cold, aloof, and distant with the man.
For number 10, we have the comedian London Hughes. London took it to X, formerly known as Twitter, to share how she always knew to keep a distance from Brand, who she claims was a self-confessed addict when it came to women and seeking intimacy. She stated, I was newly signed with Russell's agent at the height of his career. I was a huge fan of the man, so excited to meet him. But my first day at the agency, I was told unprovoked that I shouldn't sleep with him under any circumstances as he likes to pursue women, have intercourse with them. She continued by saying, but as soon as he had intercourse with them, they'd make him feel sick and he didn't want to be around them anymore, so he would have them fired or dropped from the agency. It had happened several times in the past. I was 22 at the time, did what I was told, and completely avoided him. This is not some cheeky misunderstood man. I am not shocked by the documentary at all. I believe everything those brave women said. London's statements proved there was a power imbalance when it came to other women and Brand. These girls were probably scared they would lose their job if they came forward, or worried no one would believe them. At number 9, we have the crew at Big Brother. Russell was actually representing Big Brother's Big Mouth on Channel 4, ironically, from 2004 to 2006. Well, now the crew members who worked alongside Brand have come forward to discuss his behavior on set. These employees were working for the production firm Endemol while this was occurring. Well, now these ex-employees have come forward to actually call Russell Brand a pimp. Brand would allegedly ask the showrunners to go to the audience members he found attractive and ask for their information in order to meet up with them afterwards. There is not only a power imbalance when it comes to Russell and the staff, but also the audience, which makes this whole situation even trickier. The ex-staff member stated, we all knew he was a predator. There is no denying that he was involved in a lot of complicated sexual situations. Another staff member described the workplace environment as a free-for-all due to everyone being culpable people, as they all knew how he was like. Another stated, "I distinctly remember getting phone calls from women in tears the next day saying they'd met up with Russell. It was like we were taking lambs into slaughter. We were basically acting like pimps to Russell Brand's needs." Another showrunner, who was 24 at the time, claimed Russell flashed her in the dressing room. This whole situation, if true, is devastating, as I'm sure the staff members felt compliant as he was such a well-known public figure and their jobs were probably at risk. In our 8th spot, we have Daniel Sloss. This comedian, actor, and writer was apparently one of the first to publicly speak out against him. Hundreds of sources who have worked with Brand, including other comedians and celebrities, were asked to speak up about Brand for the documentary, but Sloss was the only one who was willing to speak on record. He reveals how several women comedians were in a WhatsApp group chat together where they would warn each other about Brand. Sloss stated, "I know for many years women have been warning each other about Russell." He even further added, "There were many stories. It wasn't just coming from one person or one group of people, it was different incidents over different years and of varying degrees of severity. He was a big name, big household name. If you were a comedian and got a gig with him, you'd be gigging with a celebrity. I'm stood in bars with agents, promoters, channel commissioners, and I'm hearing these allegations and rumors with Russell in the same room." And later on, he would be on a movie or a television show, he would be hosting something. He was still being employed. If this is all true, it seems like those in the industry itself seem to have more insight on Brand while he was able to keep his image squeaky clean for the public. We have the director of the Hijack series, Jim Field-Smith. Although he hasn't directly identified who he's talking about, many believe it is about Brand himself because he tweeted a series of tweets after the allegations. He refers to this mystery A-list celebrity as Actor X, and he claims this actor has powerful people working alongside him in order to protect their career. Smith actually said he turned down working with this person because of the claims surrounding their behavior. He states, "I was once dissuaded from hiring Actor X because other actors I was meeting for other roles had heard X might be attached to the project and had said unequivocally they would not work on the project in those circumstances." He further added, "There were no criminal allegations against X, but rather a pattern of behavior that several people had either noticed or been personally subjected to." When I asked these people why this wasn't common knowledge, they said that speaking up didn't seem like it would make a difference. He continued to say, "This was really troubling. After not much deliberation, the casting director and I decided not only to cease negotiations with X, but also, more importantly, to be very open and honest about why we were doing so." If Smith is referring to Brand, it means they have addressed these claims to him, which is troubling because it seems like he has a repeated pattern as many feared him behind the scenes. At number 6, we have the anonymous former model. This ex-model, although anonymous, has shared her alleged experience she had with Brand as she spoke with The Sun. She met him back in a bar in 2005 located in Primrose Hill, and she claims to have told him to leave her alone, but he proceeded to follow her onto the streets as she says he grew increasingly creepy. While walking through the streets of London, Brand was following her while she was walking alone. She shared how it felt like a lifetime. Russell then apparently shouted at her and stated, "Let's just right here." She then further added, "I felt like he was hunting me down. It wasn't flirty or fun. The word predator is absolutely spot on. He was dead set on his goal. His intention was to have sex with someone. Anyone." That is extremely frightening, and honestly, some of the words she used to describe Brand has also been used by multiple women. For our number 5 spot, we have Dannii Minogue. This Australian singer and TV personality had an interview back in 2006 before any of these current SA allegations surfaced. She first met Brand when she was set to appear on his show to promote the release of her album. However, she was left with an awful experience. When interviewing with The Mirror, she states, "He is completely crazy and a bit of a vile predator. I certainly don't think he has cured his addiction, that's for sure. He wouldn't take no for an answer." The way Dannii described Brand sounds a lot like how other women described him, with words like predator being a reoccurring way to describe him. A lot of people are resurfacing this interview, especially because of the recent claims and because Dannii said all of this about him before anything about Brand was made public. And for number 4, we have Sean Locke. This comedian and actor had a resurfaced video that has recently been shared after the SA allegations. Back in in 2013, Locke stated, "Probably the reason I hate him so much is because I'm a dad, and I've got this fear that my daughter will bring someone like that home." This is a huge red flag when it comes to Brand's behavior, as it seems many people have the same stigma and opinions on him, and especially when it comes to Brand's treatment towards women. Locke actually then proceeds to do an imitation of Brand and says, "Such a pleasure to be your charming abode," while waving his arm in the air. It's clear Locke had his opinions about Brand before sadly passing away in 2021. In our third spot, we have Adam Rowe. This stand-up comedian wrote a thread on X describing his knowledge and experiences with Brand. He did end up taking down this tweet, however, the screenshots are posted all over Reddit. He stated, "Russell Brand's allegations far outdate his new anti-mainstream media shtick. We've all known for years but have been threatened with legal action, and he has a super injunction. Dispatches must have enough to surpass it. When I say we've, I mean the comedy industry. It is clear from our list so far, many comedians themselves are speaking out against Brand, as I'm sure many of them worked pretty close alongside him, as they are in the same industry." Adam also believes Brand is attempting to pull off the victim card, as he wants people to believe the mainstream media has gone after him. In fact, he described it as quote-unquote reverse engineered, as he believes he's known for a long time and has been preparing for this moment and spent his recent years putting up an anti-mainstream media persona. At number 2, we have comedian Sam Avery. He actually took it to X, formerly known as Twitter, to share his opinions on the ongoing SA allegations against Brand. He wrote, "People talking about Russell Brand like he's the only person to ever question the establishment, big pharma, etc. Nah mate, he's just the one with good cheekbones who uses long words that make you feel intelligent. The dude's less authentic than AstroTurf." Sam made it pretty clear where he stands with Brand, as he has now publicly said in the statement about why he doesn't like Brand and suggests why people are still supporting him amid the SA allegations. In our first spot, we have Katy Perry. Of course she would be on this list, as she was once married to Brand back in 2010, but Brand actually filed for divorce 14 months later through a text message. It actually gets worse, as he sent this text message right before Katy was set to perform, and this moment was captured on camera. You're able to view this footage through the documentary called Katy Perry Part of Me, as we see Katy getting emotional as she gets the news but quickly has to put on a smile as she hits the stage. Well, this singer had an interview with Vogue back in 2013 about her relationship with Brand and said, "He's a very smart man, a magical man, and I was in love with him when I married him. At first when I met him, he wanted an equal, and I think a lot of times strong men do want an equal, but then they get that equal and they're like, I can't handle the equalness. He didn't like the atmosphere of me being the boss on tour, so that was really hurtful, and it was very controlling, which was upsetting." She then added, "Let's just say I haven't heard from him since he texted me saying he was divorcing me." Katy has also discussed how she felt about the divorce and stated, "I felt a lot of responsibility for it ending, but then I found out the real truth, which I can't necessarily disclose because I keep it locked in my safe for a rainy day." It's clear the two weren't right for each other, as it seems Katy has gone through an emotional roller coaster while in a relationship with Brand and even after. Although she hasn't commented on the current situation, it's clear the relationship dynamic these two had was harmful and damaging towards Katy. Although these are all currently just allegations, the Sunday Times has reported multiple other women have been coming forward with even more allegations against Brand. Due to these reports, they are apparently being rigorously checked. And what are your opinions on all these allegations against Russell Brand?
Coming in at number 10, turning against writers. Drew Barrymore faced intense blowback for her decision to resume taping her talk show despite Hollywood's ongoing labor strikes. As long as hosts or guests don't discuss or promote work, she wouldn't have been violating SAG-AFTRA rules, since the network code agreement does allow daytime hosts to perform hosting duties. But the thing is that her show operates with union writers, so new episodes would have required moving forward without their writers on staff. At the time, the WAG condemned her decision. They said Drew Barrymore should not be on air while her writers are on strike fighting for a fair deal. In reality, shows like this cannot operate without writing, and that is struck work. What really got people angry about this whole situation was the hypocrisy, since back in May, Drew stepped down as a host of the MTV Movie and TV Awards in a show of support and solidarity to the striking writers. writers. At the time, she said, "I have listened to the writers, and in order to truly respect them, I will pivot from hosting the MTV Movie and TV Awards live in solidarity with the strike." But only a few months later, it seemed as though she had gone back on her stance, which is why she was immediately labeled a scab. Number 9, the apology video. Drew posted a tearful apology after coming under fire for bringing her talk show back during the writers' strike. In a video posted to Instagram, she said, "I believe there is nothing I can say or do in this moment to make it okay. I wanted to own a decision so it wasn't a PR protected situation, and I would just take full responsibility for my actions. There are so many reasons why this is so complex, and I just want everyone to know my intentions have never been in a place to upset or hurt anyone. That's just not who I am. I've been through so many ups and downs in my life, and this is one of them." Drew went on to explain that there is no PR machine behind this video or the decision to restart production. She insisted that she wanted to do this because, as she said, this is bigger than her and there are other people's jobs on the line. She said, "Since launching live in a pandemic, I just wanted to make a show that was there for people in sensitive times." She thought if she could go on during a global pandemic and everything that the world has experienced in 2020, why would this sideline us? But of course, her words fell on deaf ears because by that point, her decision had already been made. Number 8, fired from hosting. As we know, Drew got a ton of backlash for her decision to bring back the show. And then in what must have felt like the final crushing blow, the night before the long list for this year's National Book Awards started coming out, Drew was fired by the National Book Foundation. They announced that Drew, who had been set to host the gala, had been dropped. Quote, "The National Book Awards is an evening dedicated to celebrating the power of literature and the incomparable contributions of writers to our culture. In light of the announcement that the Drew Barrymore show will resume production, the National Book Foundation has rescinded Mrs. Barrymore's invitation to host the 74th National Book Awards ceremony. Our commitment is to ensure that the focus of the awards remains on celebrating writers and books, and we are grateful to Miss Barrymore and her team for understanding the situation." So obviously the foundation chose to stand with the writers in this particular instance, and for that reason they got a lot of praise. Unfortunately, many people felt that this was karma for Drew, and they celebrated the decision to fire her. What's more likely is that the foundation simply didn't want to have to deal with the picketers who would be lining up outside their event. So they did the easier thing and chose to let her go. Number 7, fans kicked out of the show. Drew's talk show went on with taping throughout last week, and it got some seriously bad press in the process because 2 audience members were booted from taping due to wearing a strike pin that had been handed to them by picketers outside of the show's set. So the fact that they got kicked out of the show just because they wore those pins was insane. Drew and her team insisted that she had no idea what had happened, but of course by this point, very few people actually believed her. So she got even more hate when that story came out. Originally, Drew had promised that the show would be fully ad-libbed and not written at all, due to 3 of the usual writers on the series currently striking as a part of the WGA. Despite this, the guild stated that even this version of the show was not within the strike's rules. In her original announcement, Drew said, "I own this choice. We are in compliance with not discussing or promoting film and television that is struck of any kind. Our show was built for sensitive times and has only functioned through what the real world is going through in real time." But clearly, all of that was not enough to stop the growing outrage. Number 6, caving to pressure. Following a flood of criticism from fans and peers for her decision to return her talk show to air, Drew has now decided to press pause on her show's new season, which has led at least 2 other shows in the genre to do the same. She announced a reversal on Instagram, and her statement read, "I have listened to everyone and I'm making the decision to pause the show's premiere until the strike is over. I have no words to express my deepest apologies to anyone I have hurt, and of course to our incredible team who works on the show and has made it what it is today. We have really tried to find our way forward, and I truly hope for a resolution for the entire industry very soon." After Drew's announcement, the Jennifer Hudson Show and The Talk also paused their season premieres, which were set for Monday, with a spokesperson saying that it would evaluate plans for a new launch date. A spokesperson for CBS Media Ventures then told the media that "we support Drew's decision to pause the show's return and understand how complex and difficult this process must have been for her." Coming in at number 5, 5. No concept of personal space. Drew got some major side-eye from fans over her behavior on her own talk show. As a host, she's often very comfortable with her guests, but apparently sometimes a little too comfortable. In a clip taken from the show, she can be seen interviewing Kathryn Hahn before sliding to the floor on her knees and jokingly touching her legs. The two of them were discussing the topic of shaving, and Drew was obviously feeling Kathryn's legs for stubble, but a lot of viewers didn't take too kindly to this action, calling her out for the strange and cringy behavior. Under the video, people wrote things like, "The show should be named Drew getting on the floor every episode," and "Why does she keep doing this on the floor thing? I find it strange." The general consensus was that she gets way too close to her guests and is often all up in their personal space, which is why some people get very uncomfortable when watching her show. One person wrote, "Remember when Drew Barrymore's show started and the chairs on the stage were so far apart because of the pandemic, and Drew wasn't constantly on her knees at her guests' feet?" So that's something that fans have noticed, and they really don't like it. Number 4. Rude comments. Last year, Drew Barrymore came under fire for her remarks that she made about Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. She then apologized on social media for making light of a very serious case after she described the trial as a 7-layer dip of insanity on her show. She said, "It's like one layer of crazy, it's a 7-layer dip of insanity. I know that these are two people's real lives, and I know what it's like to have your life put out in public." She went on to say, "I understand all the feelings, but they are actually offering up all this information that no one had to know. This is crazy." Drew then took to Instagram to apologize for these comments, saying that she was sorry for offending people by making light of the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard trial. She said, "This can be a teachable moment for me and how I move forward and how I conduct myself." While this was one of her better apologies, it's no wonder fans felt a little off about her original comments, because by this point in time, many people were making fun of the trial, which was about a very serious issue. So it didn't help that major celebrities like Drew Barrymore were also doing the same. Number 3. Dissing Bill Murray. The actress recently talked about witnessing Bill Murray's demeaning behavior, and she said she was present when he hurled insults at Lucy Liu on the set of Charlie's Angels. Drew said, "What really happened was Bill just came in a bad mood. You know, comedians can be a little dark sometimes, and what you have to know is how much Lucy stood up for herself, and that was a great thing that came out of an unfortunate circumstance. She literally said, 'I do not accept that kind of behavior from you,' and we all supported her and backed her up, and we moved forward." Drew said that there were some general comments made towards the group, but then Murray zeroed in on Lucy. Drew also sent her a video that she had of the incident to back up her allegations, which showed the moment that Bill Murray started lashing into her. It was apparently all caught on camera. In response, Lucy told her that she didn't even need the video for confirmation, and just having her friend's support was enough. Obviously, these comments didn't sit too well with Bill Murray fans, but it just goes to show you that the Angels still have each other's backs. Number 2. Accusations of nepotism. Drew Barrymore is a staple of Hollywood at this point, but she did get her start because she was a daughter of Jade Barrymore and John Drew Barrymore. The crazy thing is that her family's fame goes back even further. The Barrymore legacy dates back to the 19th century to Maurice Barrymore and Georgina Emma Drew, who were stage actors. The first Barrymore to be featured on TV was Lionel Barrymore, who won an Oscar for a 1931 film called A Free Soul. Barrymore getting into Steven Spielberg's E.T., the extraterrestrial was a given. Drew still had a rough childhood, sadly, and it was all thanks to her connections with Spielberg that she didn't spiral into a bad lifestyle like Lindsay Lohan. And coming in at number 1, The Hollywood Life. Drew became a star at the ripe old age of 7 when she played Gertie in 1982's E.T. And of course, she was born into that famous family of actors, so she was truly meant for show business. But behind the curtain of her star-studded life, there was also a lot of darkness. According to The Guardian, Drew Barrymore's father, John, was a raging alcoholic, and her mother, Jade, lacked parental responsibility, and she also acted as Drew's manager and put her to work in show business at only 11 months old. But when her parents divorced, the young actress was left with her mother, who frequently took her out to party at Studio 54, where she was unfortunately exposed to illicit substances and a lifestyle that was meant for adults. By the age of 13, Drew had already been in rehab and she had been institutionalized. In fact, it was a psychiatric hospital that suggested that she should emancipate herself from her parents, as they believed she would be better off on her own. Drew agreed and cut contact with Jade, and at 14, she was already living by herself. She would be estranged from her mother for decades, and she recently revealed on Oprah that she was not present at her wedding because they both discussed it and thought that it would be best.
And for number 10, we have Joe stating Sophie will always have his back. And this was said a few weeks before their marriage came to an end. Although it may be true platonically, it definitely won't be like that romantically, at least for a while. However, it is hard to believe Joe when he says Sophie will always have his back, especially because of all the rumors or hidden truths in the media right now. They're all stating how their marriage is unrepairable, with many indicators pointing at the end of their marriage being a really messy one. So did Joe say this to try and deceive the public early on in order to keep things private for as long as he could? Or did he really believe that at the time, and something must have happened within the following weeks for them to split? And for number 9, we have Joe stating numerous times how great of a mom Sophie was towards their 2 daughters. However, rumors started spreading quickly after their decision for divorce was made public, indicating different reasons why their marriage ended. TMZ reportedly indicated the final straw was when Joe allegedly caught Sophie on their home Ring doorbell, which, if you aren't familiar with, captures sound and camera footage. Sophie apparently said or did something that Joe saw through the Ring doorbell and decided to end their marriage. What Joe saw or heard is still unconfirmed, but it does keep you wondering what would have been something Sophie did that was bad enough to end their seemingly loving marriage. If this is true, Joe stating Sophie's a great mom may be a little more questionable. As of now, Jonas's lawyer talked about the plans of having shared custody or parental responsibility, as their 2 daughters are only 4 and 1 years old, which is a great chance for both parents to continue building a relationship with their children even after the divorce. And for number 8, we have apparently Sophie is very down to earth and very relatable, even though she has found massive success in her career as an actor. That was one thing Joe loved about her, as they were able to be genuinely happy once upon a time. However, some sources have said Sophie felt trapped in her relationship with Joe. These 2 ex-lovebirds have 7 years in between them two, which means they have a 7-year age gap, meaning Sophie began dating Joe when she was around 20 years old and he was 27, and that was back in 2016. They ended up getting married in 2019 when Sophie was 23 and Joe was 29. Well, apparently Turner has started to feel regret as she believes she has missed out on her youthful years and the ability to be as carefree as she would like to be. But instead, these 2 started a life together, being tied down to marriage and even welcoming their 2 daughters. Sophie was 24 when they had their first child together, and many are speculating how she may feel like she didn't fully enjoy her youthful years when she had the chance to, and instead was taking care of her family. The 7-year age gap may have been why they no longer see eye to eye, as they are both in very different stages in their lives, and as they continue to grow their careers and their own individuality. At number 7, we have Seeking Adventure. Jonas has talked about how he loves Turner's exploration and adventurous side. She loves seeking a new activity or trying a new thing. Unfortunately, this very thing Joe loved Sophie for could be a potential cause of their split. An unnamed source, allegedly a friend of Sophie's, confirmed issues between these 2 started around the time of Christmas of 2022. The source said Sophie then decided to separate with Joe during the start of summer of this year. She spent those summer months partying with her friends and enjoying her holiday all around Europe. And you may be wondering what Joe was doing while she was out and about. Well, he was taking care of their children. I understand if Sophie wanted a little break because it can be exhausting to be a mother, especially to 2 young children. However, her drive for adventure has definitely not helped the relationship between her and her former husband, as the time apart led to Joe filing for divorce. Since she had an active career in this industry since she was 14, she may be curious about what have entailed during those times if she didn't start her career. Well, now she is very successful from what she does, and maybe she just wants to take a break from her life a little bit and live the parts she missed out on. And for number 6, we have Deceiving the Public. In May of this year, which should have been roughly around the time Sophie decided to separate from Joe, he was performing live at concert when he stopped to ask where Sophie was a among the audience, and told her he just wanted to say that he loves her. Of course, when it comes to the public eye, it isn't always easy to tell everyone the truth, nor do they owe it to the public. However, it is interesting how the timing of this, when it happened, fits in right before Sophie allegedly split from Joe, making us wonder how long problems were really swept under the rug. I mean, these two were iconic and well known for how seemingly perfect they appeared. They took funny paparazzi photos together in the past, which ultimately gave fans the appearance of a happy and funny couple. The home Joe and Sophie owned was also put up for sale weeks before the news broke out about their divorce. Talks about a divorce must have been actively occurring as they clearly had a rough summer apart from each other. And at number 5, we have commitment. Joe has revealed in an interview in the past how he loves Sophie because she's so hardworking and committed when it comes to her roles. Unfortunately, the role of being a mother has been on the rough side. Allegedly, people who are close to Jonas and Turner knew their relationship was coming to an end as they spent the entire summer basically apart. Their lifestyle has no longer been matching up and working together as if it used to. Instead, friends of Sophie say she has never experienced those teenage years, finding herself and seeking different partners. Apparently, ever since the kids came along, she has felt trapped. The commitment between work life and now kids is definitely not an easy one to balance. Joe seems to have wanted a settled down life as he is a little older than Sophie. However, Turner does feel like she's missed out on her young years because of the industry she is in and began working for when she was only 14 years old as an actress. Her friends say she isn't ready for that as she's never experienced everything she clearly wants to do. And for number 4, we have family pressure. An unnamed friend of Turner said there's been a lot of pressure Sophie has been put under due to the families comparing Nick and Priyanka's relationship. And if you don't know who Nick Jonas is, he's the brother of Joe and another member of their famous band, the Jonas Brothers. Nick is married to Priyanka, who is 10 years older than him, and sources say because Priyanka is not only older but is more mature and on the same page as Nick when it comes to family life and careers, Sophie has felt a lot of stress due to this. Allegedly, Joe and his family want Sophie to be focused and similar to Joe and his goals in the same way Nick and Priyanka are. But due to Sophie being now 27, she feels like she's wasted all of her time on her good youthful years working. Because of that, she wants to spend her time now catching up and making memories to replace the time she thought was wasted. And you're probably wondering why Sophie even married Joe if that's how she was feeling. While sources say there was no issues in the beginning surrounding their age gap, but as time has gone on, it has proved they both want very different things. I mean, your own family pressure is scary enough, but imagine your partner's family. And for number 3, we have Joe saying in the past how he is the social butterfly in the relationship and Sophie is the homebody. This may have been true at the time, however, it is clear through all the attention these two have on them right now, Sophie was the one seeking excitement, whereas Joe has been allegedly taking care of their 2 children. While the world was in lockdown during the pandemic, Sophie revealed in a video how she loved being at home all the time, whereas Joe felt like he was in prison. It is interesting to see how things change and makes you wonder what actually caused these issues. Did something happen for Sophie to come out of her shell? In fact, sources say that the time Sophie went to Europe for vacation, Joe actually flew there, as well as their 2 daughters. Joe tried to fix the relationship, however it is said that they were unable to work through any differences they may have had, which led Joe fly back to the US with his children, who has since been living with him. Allegedly, Sophie's friend told media outlets that Turner has only begun living her life as she has been in the industry since she was 14. From there, she got married and began a family while in her mid-20s, which may help us understand why she feels like she has to get out rather than live the life she did. And for number 2, we have privacy. Joe has been well aware of Sophie trying to hide their children's face due to constant cameras and eyes on them. Sophie indeed had great intentions protecting her children from the harsh and cruel world. Joe, however, is facing major backlash online after the first photos of him have been released ever since the divorce was filed. The photos show Joe with his 2 daughters out in public without his wedding ring on, and fans were quick to share their opinions as many people believe this was an obvious PR stunt as they were seated outdoors where the paparazzi were able to take pictures of them. Whether he hired the paparazzi or not, it is definitely unfair to the children who have been protected by Turner in the past. Now suddenly the divorce news comes out and his kids' faces are shown all over the internet. Some think Joe did it in order to get back at Sophie, but obviously the only people that know the full truth are Joe and Sophie themselves. And finally, in our number 1 spot, we have Jonas's fake personality. personality. Some fans speculate the 2008 Taylor Swift song Mr. Perfectly Fine is actually about Joe Jonas. If you didn't know, Joe and Taylor dated back in the day, and many believe their relationship was the inspiration behind Taylor's song, with lyrics basically explaining a man who has caused so many issues behind the scenes but refuses to be truthful to the public. It also discusses how this mystery man actually crafts and plans his strategies so he does not appear to be the bad guy in the public eye. What makes this so-called theory even crazier is Sophie's Instagram post. Back in August of this year, Turner attended a Taylor Swift concert and many fans gave her bracelets that read Mr. Perfectly Fine. Those bracelets were visible in her Instagram photo, and it is obviously hard to deny how interesting this theory really is, or if it even is a theory. Now some fans are split between Team Jonas versus Team Turner, as I'm sure it takes two to tangle.